You were just saying that the closer you are to the real, the more obvious.
The unreal is.
Yeah. And I'm feeling that to be very true and sometimes almost not quite unbearable. That's not the right word, but really, redolent, right? Smelly. Mm-hmm. And it's almost enough to cause some serious thought about just, walking up to some mountain and disappearing.
Better to disappear right here and now. Right? Save yourself all that travel expense. That's a hell of an expense. If you can do it right here on the spot, that's even better. So some people think that, well, the Dharma or the retreats and the monastic life or the yogi life is like just some other trip. Could be that. Could be another world too. And it's because it is another world, and maybe even a better world, people flock to it. Yeah. So it's nothing else. Yeah. But to step up, see, away from the din, away from the noise, away from the chitta-chatta, see, away from the BS, and people who worship BS as God. Mm-hmm. Because as soon as a sane person or almost sane person experiences that degree of stillness, quietness, peace, they know. And that's what they want to be working from, regardless of how much noise their karma or their occupation or their family or the situation is. See? Despite all noise, you have found that which can withstand the noise because it's beyond the noise. Simply, beautifully beyond the noise.
Yeah, the noise. It can be a little bit, say, frustrating or disheartening to have to work within that to some degree. To have to almost pretend to be a part of it.
When you're unevolved, you have no choice. When you're unevolved, you dread the day you wake up, because then you're going to know for real what's going on, and what your contracts are with BS, what your submission and devotion is to BS, becomes sometimes a heartbreaking shock. How can I do this? How can I be a party to this? How can I be a member of this party? This is no party, this is hell. What was I thinking? Good question. Mm-hmm. But just the disaster waking up is relative to all the shenanigans and BS programming that you were indulging in as if it was the highway. Mm-hmm. And there's a breakthrough, so I can't go back to that. It's busted. I don't fit in that anymore. It's not beautiful anymore. It's not delicious anymore. It's not the bed of roses I always made it out to be. Like, this is the life. Wow, friends, self-indulgence, and egos run rampant. BS overflowing. The good life. Really? Look again. See. Try and see what the real teaching is in the midst of that, or the real teacher is in the midst of that. And we have the symbol of the tree of grace. Clearly, simply, 3 degrees. Earth to moon, moon to sun, sun to solar system to galaxy. Galaxy to universe to source. And you have a zip. You have practice.
So, in terms of being in the world but not of it, it seems like this practice is in the world but not of it, and the not of itness, the focus on and the resonance with nothingness or silence or spirit, whatever the word may be, something that people in general can't know, don't want to know, in the normal way. That I think can at once be the most alienating practice and the most integrating practice, and it seems like it almost shouldn't be spoken of in normal conversation. It seems like that's a distraction. This is a pretty garbled question at this point, but I guess I'm just...
There's the real world, and that's all there is. There's no question about it. But getting to the real world, it's not an easy trick. Could be said 1,000 times. You feel you got to the real world and you realize you're not in the real world, but you swore it relative to the state you were in before. This has to be the real world. This is so much better. 1,000 times, 1,000 grades of it. Then you wonder if you're in the real world. Which one of your friends represents, in your view, what is clear light? Not too many. Maybe a few. Maybe one. How many of your friends or associates represents heart-blown compassion? Maybe half of one? A leg? A finger? Yeah. How many of your friends represent self-transcended realization? How many even know what some of these things are? What they mean? Or what suffering is? Or what practice is beyond suffering? And what sacrifice means? what it is that needs to be sacrificed, who it is that needs to be sacrificed. And what love, devotion, heart practice is all about. How many of them know what it is to be dead and alive? Dead to the world, alive to the spirit. Dead to the ego of selfishness, confusion, neuroses. And self-deception. And alive to the heart. And the way of love. The way of light. And the way of liberation.
The Dharma and what we've talked about often touches on
The
sacrifice.
Dharma equals complete, total, radical sacrifice of self, thought, mind, and world. Done. Gone. What does gati mean? That's gone. What does it mean? Holding on to yourself, your comfort zones, your favorite pastries, your food, right? Your clothes, your family, your things. No. That's not Dhamma, that's karma. It's being buried in your own stuff. It's your baggage, your desires. All the things that justify being ruled by the forces of gravity, and thus being subject to the forces of Kal, time. Come on.
I think that one question is, okay, cool, how? How on earth?
When you get there, you know. Right. You can't go down to the market and buy it. It's not there.
Yeah. No one's selling.
There's no
sacrifice.
dial and enlightenment. There's no dial of realization. There's none. Takes eons of purification. Eons. Innumerable lifetimes to get to a point where you can actually sit correctly without worrying about your stuff or obsessed with your stuff, yourself, your desires, your BS, and your suffering, which all of that is.
The possibility that it may take lifetimes upon lifetimes to get to a point where...
It does. It takes many generations. Look at each tree, family tree. Who comes out enlightened? Under what conditions? Because of what? But who doesn't come out unenlightened? So birth is a process of unenlightenment. Karma is the field of unenlightenment. Ignorance is the mind of unenlightenment. Darkness is the happiness of unenlightenment.
And the space of time that it may take to get there in no way should, well...
In every way it does. Because it is about that. It's time and suffering as a cosmic movement to karmic death. Suffering death, so to speak. Suffering life, suffering death. How many lives of suffering does one need to experience? Besides maybe millions. Right? Before one becomes aware of the cycle, the pattern, see? And the suffering of it. Who knows when a glimpse of liberation is going to enter into the stream and thus appear as a light, maybe a beam of hope, see? A moment of grace. See the light for the first time. What? There is light. You see it. Out of the darkness comes this light. And the darkness starts to disappear. In the process of the disappearing of darkness, one can see that they want the light. They need the light. The light is what is true. In the light there is knowledge. In the light there is being light. There's possibility. In the light one sees what needs to be created, what needs to be done. But who can do it? Many see. Many are called to see. Doesn't mean they're chosen to do. And many who do doesn't mean they are chosen to know. Many know doesn't mean they're chosen to be liberated.
Part of what drives practitioners or seekers at one point or other is the impulse, I want to be enlightened, which one could say has a lot to do with
self-limitation.
ego.
Self-limitation. For the most part, anything is self-limitation. When I is nothing and no one and nowhere, that could be useful. Especially if those words are once heard, thrown away. So that one enters the deeper realm of no words. And from the realization, the words come up of themselves and disappear. They are remembered to be forgotten. They're given to be released and sent into the stream to be of use to others, if they can be. Who knows? Come in.
So is there anything particularly wrong with that step? The I want to step? The I must be
Not
enlightened
wrong.
step?
No one says it's wrong. No one says it's right. So it's neither right nor wrong. Just called another step.
Hmm. And finding oneself in that step, perhaps. How does one
Or
use
finding,
it?
finding oneself, in a sense, on the path in a more formal way.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's still not really the path. Yeah. Because then there is the path, and then there is the no path. Question is the no path the path? The answer is it could be. When enough is given up, say, of the gravitational darkness and self-building, it becomes more clear and perhaps even more obvious.
Describing the path or the no path that way, I think there's a sense of vastness in it that that I think.
You mean mystery?
Hmm.
It's just mystery. You don't know. It's mystery.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that means a question mark. I don't know about vastness. It's just a question mark. One has to contend with a question. Yeah. That justifies the function of the seeker. And truly, the realm of searching is vast, but it must be understood. It's the realm of searching. It's vast. It means it's infinite. You can search forever and never find what it is. Never find where it is. You'll never find who it is you're looking for. Or why. Unless you have guidance. Oh, Lord. Right? The peace of guidance. Whoa. Happiness.
Seems like very rarely the company that we keep or the communities we're a part of or the societies that our communities are a part of, very rarely do they seem to help this process. And this process, I mean, the process of liberation. It seems like almost everything pulls in the other direction, down. So I'm wondering how Earth is both that and also something other than that.
Earth gives birth to geniuses, masters, and saints. Just as easily as idiots, egomaniacs, and criminals. The question is, does the Earth care? Or do we care? The inhabitants, do we care? Then the question is, well, what does we mean? Who are the we? Do we mean the spiritual travelers who travel the universes? Or we mean, next door neighbor, suffering over a couple of bucks? We have to mean the spiritual travelers. Who are here as, in a sense, gatekeepers for the few who are ready to hear it, and fewer who are ready to do it, and fewer who are ready to realize it for themselves.
It seems like a lot of my questions from the beginning and still now have to do with trying to find an answer and I guess thereby miss the point of this, to sort of keep playing this game of trying to know something that really isn't about that.
Eludes you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So it's not about your questions, it's about you. See? If you could see yourself as a questioner, who doesn't need to be the questioner, who could be more than a questioner, then maybe you can do that. If you could be you that says, what's the question? What's the question supposed to achieve? Then you might be able to go deeper. If you are you who says, is there really a question about or for any of this, or because of any of this? What might it be? Not just a why, a what, a who? None of it seems to help. Therefore it is said, the self, thought, mind, and world have to be transcended. Before good practice can begin. You have to be already done with the world before good practice can begin, in a manner of speaking. And many who are here already, beyond this world, are ready to practice, being beyond self, thought, mind, and world. So they do, without hesitation. Do you? Can you? Should you?
The topic of Dharma or enlightenment or realization or liberation is one that can be entertaining to...
Amusing.
Yeah.
Very amusing. Understandably.
And also very self-building often. You know, oh, I get it. I can talk about it. I can share this with people. I can drop some knowledge on somebody. That person's suffering. I can help them.
If they have spent time with the master who has transcended self, thought, and mind, then they may be able to do that. See? But they should also know there are no words for it. And there's no self-gratification in it. We need to drink water, and we drink water. We experience it. When you're trying to describe it, it becomes a little bit fuzzy. You know, like describing cake and what your taste buds tell you about cake. If they don't know it, it's hard to communicate that to them. Right? So there's a communication reality, and that's a factor. It's a barrier. Right? From experience, from no experience to experience, and then from experience to being. So talk is talk, no problem. And most people want to hear themselves talk, right? Show up as a knower or whatever. They don't really know, because they can't really know. Ordinarily, it's not impossible to know. Well, yes, it's impossible to leap from an ant's level to an alien's level. It's possible. See, who's been around the universe for 1 billion years? It's possible. So you may make sense to yourselves and your company as you talk. And people want to hear talk because that's all they're capable of. See, it's talk and consideration. And no higher and more important reality than that for most. Until you have, as you've had, a paradoxical experience with different realities here. For yourself, not because I say so, because you've said so. Whether it's here on the bandstand where you have a whole different reality going on, which you're familiar with, that you have something to speak about in terms of what it is to you. It's your experience. Not easily communicable to anyone else. Different levels of reality. Okay? That's the law. And that's the scale as well. people at the lower end of reality, lower end of intelligence, which is neither good nor bad, it is what it is, and they evolve, maybe progress, or advance to higher levels, say out of necessity, maybe out of desire, maybe out of inheritance, maybe out of coercion, maybe they're forced to. Urgency, out of urgency. Coming.
Reminds me of something you said recently, which is you start from where you are.
Whether you like it or not. Whether you're even there or not, you start from where you are, wherever that is. Fair enough. But where is that? Is that your measure or perception of darkness, or your measure or perception of light? And when either of those is in truth lived and realized as such, what are the effects? Do we see the effects?
Is it better to hold or let go?
Let it be gone. The best thing to hold on to is nothing. It's impossible for most people. It's a highly recommended practice. Comment. Why is that so for you?
Because it's fundamentally true. There's no, it doesn't generate concerns or questions or doubts or anxiety or fear or ignorance or anything like that, where that is the nature of things and people. That's the field of things and people.
Holding on.
Yeah.
It's all about holding on. It's all about clinging. It's all about doing yourself in, see, by unnecessary attachment to gravitational programming. Specifically designed or intentioned to keep you down. Burdened, suffocated, against yourself. Overwhelmed by yourself. Decisions, see, impressions, perceptions, imaginings, doubts, confusions, self-divisive programming, so on. Gravity. Earth. Earth is hell. With the appearance or presence of the guide, whatever that means to someone, then that means hell is no longer real. It is not the governing real. As soon as you see the guide, you say, well, what if this is not real?
And relative to Earth, I mean, we still have, our pleasures. There are still sunsets and vistas. There is still cake. And people's preferences.
You mean you still have yourself? Right.
Yeah.
You still have your suffering, your grave. You still have your casket. Right. Your sweet and exquisitely designed casket. It's still the same. It's garbage. You have to get out of it. You
Yeah.
have to escape it. You have to open the door of the casket and get out, literally get out of your casket, say, of suffering, sweet and sour things in your life, comforts and discomforts.
Mm.
Comforts are discomforts, discomforts are comforts.
I think it's easy to ask, well, if there are beautiful sunsets on Earth, how on earth is this hell?
Beautiful sunsets on Earth are hell. They're momentary sort of fantasies. So what it is. Because in the heat of war, there's no sunsets there. There's nothing but fear. Not fantasy. Stark fear. Raging anger. And an acute sense of disaster and death. On Earth, not hell.
Mm.
So it's not everybody's vivid sense, but it is there, and it's shared by media, by resonance, by vibration, by knowing there's destruction prevailing. People feel it. They mask it because they'd rather not be used by it. They'd rather not be that sensitive to it. They wouldn't be able to function. So, but that's the realm here. Yeah. Earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, mudslides, fires, wrecks. It's the field for it. Rising and falling. With or without sunsets. They're an illusion anyway, relative to the position the Earth is in. And whatever the consequences are relative to appearances. Setting sun, rising moon, it's just imagery. Some of it corresponds to certain time coincidences, time correspondences, configurations relative to the planets. All of this is the field. The field is taking care of itself. It's before you, it will survive you. So it's a matter of where you fit into the field of change that either manages to create and make real your state of consciousness as a frozen issue or as something that is much more creative and thus transformable into light. Okay? Not the belief in light, but light. The belief in light and the light itself are radically different. Related, but radically different on the spectrum of reality. You have a pebble, then you have the sun. Maybe no difference. Maybe a huge difference. Therefore, there's purpose to the idea of realization. There is purpose to the process of practicing that results in or points directly at realization. And there is a purpose for the realization which is beyond realization. Gone. And all the stuff of self, thought, mind, and will, it disappears as a force to be reckoned with. It's gone.
So there's the idea and the intention of gone, the pushing away of a thought,
Or there's just no thought.
and then
It's not even an effort. There's just always no thought, and then there's always thought.
Hmm. So it seems like the distinction.
Then we used a term earlier in the series about the shift. And the shift is natural because you go to sleep. And that's the radical shift. From self to no self. We're not talking about selflessness as a realization. We're just talking about the appearance or disappearance of self as it arises and as it sets. Okay.
Yeah. So there's no will in gone. There's no effort in gone. There's no.
Well, there may be a tremendous effort to be gone, but there is none in gone. Right? Gone is gone. It's after the fact. It's before the fact, and it's during the fact. It's already gone. And it's that simple.